Orson Welles never really went away. He was a filmmaker literally for 6 decades, and probably his best movie, in my opinion, besides Citizen Kane, was a movie that wasn't really a movie, it was a documentary. Of course, have to be talking about the classic F for Fake. Now, known in French as Truth and Lies and in Spain as Fraud, is a 1973 docudrama film, co-written, directed, and starring Orson Welles, who worked on the film alongside Francois Rickenbach, Oja Kohler, who was his paramour at the time, and Gary Graver. Initial release in '74, it focuses on Elmire de Hore's recounting of his career as a professional art forger. De Hore's story serves as a backdrop for a meandering investigation of the natures of authorship and authenticity, as well as the basis of value of art. Far from serving as a traditional documentary on De Hore, the film also incorporates Will's companion Oya Kodar, hoax biographer Clifford Irving, and Orson Welles himself. F for Fake is sometimes considered an example of the film essay, which we see in the modern era. So he invented, really, the modern film essay. In addition to the 88-minute film, in '76, Welles also shot and edited a self-contained 9-minute short film as a trailer, almost entirely composed of original material, not found in the main film itself. Now, the film opens with Welles performing magic tricks for some children while Kodar watches nearby. Welles quotes Robert Houdin to the effect that a magician is just an actor. Now, Welles promises that for the next hour, everything in the film will be based on solid fact. Of course, we see a guest appearance as well by Lawrence Harvey. Kodar is then shown strolling around the street in a miniskirt while being ogled by the men on the street. Welles reveals the footage is taken from another experiment about girl watching, where Kodar deliberately drew attention to herself and the men were unaware they were being filmed. And some very good editing in the movie, of course, especially this scene. Welles says her story will continue later in the film, and then narrates the story of Elmire de Haulay, an art forger who sold many fake paintings to museums and collectors all over the world. Elmire is shown throwing a dinner party at his home in Ibiza and being feted by European society, although he dances around the question of whether he is guilty or not. One of those filmed is Clifford Irving, who had published a biography of Haulay called Fake, and was later revealed to have been the forger of the fake authorized biography of Howard Hughes. Welles discusses the irony of Irving commenting on Elmire's forgery while having committed the version of it himself. Welles states his belief that Irving must have been in the process of working on the hoax at the time he was filmed for the Dohore project. Irving and Elmire tell about the art dealers who were fooled by forgeries, and Welles considers the question whether this means art dealers and appraisers are fake also. Now, Welles presents more of the Irving story of having had secret contact with Hughes and the odd stories of Hughes' behavior that may or may not have been true. He wonders if believing such stories makes a person credulous or not, and questions the true wisdom of so-called experts who verified Irving's forgery as authentic. Rickenbach is shown telling how Elmire provided him with silver paintings of questionable authenticity, but the art dealers he gave them to were willingly blind to it. Welles notes that Elmire does not even own the house he lives in. It is provided to him by an art dealer. Welles recounts his own past use of fakery, how he got a job in Ireland by falsely claiming to be a famous New York actor, and how his broadcasts of Word of Worlds made deliberate use of fake news to enhance the story. He also noticed the coincidence that his first film, Citizen Kane, was originally going to be a fictionalized version of Howard Hughes, but of course is William Randolph Hearst. Irving describes how Elmire was nearly destitute when younger and subsisted in America by making and selling forgeries that were indistinguishable from the real works, while remaining one step ahead of the law through frequent relocations. He finally moved to Ibiza, but was not prosecuted for lack of witnesses to the actual forging, as well as the scandal that might be aroused by revealing the depth of the art market's complicity in the deception. Elmire insists he never signed any forgery, and Welles wonders whether, given the fact that all art eventually falls away to ruin, a signature truly matters to any artwork. He illustrates the point by shots at the Cathedral of Chartres, pointing out the names of the men who created the magnificent building, and the sculptures which adorn it are unknown. He did not sign their work, but has endured. Now, Welles finally presents Kodar's story. She holidayed in the same village as Picasso, who noticed her and painted 22 pieces with her as the model. She insisted she be allowed to keep the paintings, but later when Picasso read about an acclaimed exhibit of 22 new pieces of his, he flew there in a rage, only to discover the pieces were all forgeries. Kodar took Picasso to her grandfather, the forger. In a verbal reenactment by Wells, the grandfather, and Godard Picasso, the forger defended his work with pride, saying he invented a new Picasso period. The grandfather suggests that the forgeries go unreported to allow him an artistic legacy that Picasso already has. Picasso angrily demanded the paintings back, which is impossible because the grandfather had burned them. Wells then confesses that he promised everything in the next hour was true, and that hour is already past. He admits the entire story of Godard, her grandfather Picasso, was made up. He apologizes, quotes Picasso's statement that art is a lie, that makes us see the truth, and bids the audience good evening. So other key participants include Joseph Cotton, Francois Reichenbach, Richard Wilson, Paul Stewart, of course, Lawrence Harvey as well. Marc Forget, the assistant to Elmire, appears, and also Peter Bogdanovich as a voice, William Ballard, Howard Hughes, Jean-Pierre Aumont, Lawrence Harvey, Clifford Irving, and Nina Val Pallant, the Mrs. Hughes of the book. Now, Wells was hired to edit the documentary by Francois Reichenbach about the art forger Elmire. The film grew over time to encompass Elmire as well as Elmire's biographer Clifford Irving, who was revealed to be a forger himself. Keith Woodward explains, following Irving's hoax, Wells and his cinematographer Gary Graver shifted gears, scrambling to keep up the used affair, adding new shots, rethinking the narrative, re-editing, recombining different themes, incorporating emerging material, and Wells used these circumstances to produce a meditation on the nature of fakery, which he called a new kind of movie. And it's a form. In other words, the essay, the personal essay, as opposed to the documentary. Now, several storylines are presented in the film, including those of Elmire, Irving, Wells, Howard Hughes, and Godard. About Elmire, we learned that he was a struggling artist who turned to forgery out of desperation, only to see the greater share of his profits from these deceptions go to doubly unscrupulous art dealers. As partial compensation for that injustice, he is maintained in a villa in Ibiza by one of his dealers. What is only hinted at in the Wells documentary is that Elmire had recently served a 2-month sentence in a Spanish prison for homosexuality consorting with criminals. How do you prove that? Elmire would commit suicide 2 years later, after the initial release of Wells' film, on hearing that Spain had agreed to turn him over to the French. Now, Irving's original part in F for Fake was as Elmire's biographer, but his part grew unexpectedly at some point during production. There has not always been agreement among commentators over just how that production unfolded, but a now accepted story is that the director Francois Reichenbach shot a documentary about Elmire and Irving before giving the footage to Wells, who then shot additional footage with Reichenbach as the cinematographer. Now, at the time between the shooting of Reichenbach's documentary and the finishing of Wells's, it became known that Irving had perpetrated a hoax of his own, namely a fabricated authorized biography of Howard Hughes. The hoax was later fictionalized in a Richard Gere movie, The Hoax, which didn't tell the whole story, by the way. This discovery prompted the shooting of still more footage, which then got woven to F for Fake. Interweaving the narratives even more, there were several pieces of footage in the film showing Wells at a party with Elmire, and at one point, Elmire even signs a painting with a forgery of Wells' signature. Some of Hughes' career is outlined in the form of the parody of the News on the March, Sequence and Citizen Kane. Wells also draws parallels between Elmire and the Irving hoaxes in his own brush with early notoriety by including a recreation of part of the 30th War of the Worlds radio drama, which had simulated a newscast about a Martian invasion and sparked panic among some listeners. Now, the story about Godard, her grandfather Picasso, and some forged paintings that the grandfather supposedly made is presented at the end of the film. And he said, for the last 17 minutes, I've been lying my head off. In a commentary to the Criterion Collection DVD or F for Fake, Godard claims the idea for the segment as her own. She also claims credit for the movie's opening sequence, which consists of shots of a miniskirt-clad Godard walking down streets while rubbernecking male admirers, unaware they were being filmed, stop and openly stare. This sequence is described by Godard as inspired by her feminism. In his narration, Wells claims the footage was originally shot for an unrelated production. Now, filming locations include Rome, Italy, Ibiza, Paris, LA, the Chartres Cathedral, Orville, France, Oudin, France, and the Paris-Orly Airport. Now, F for Fake was not released in the States until '76. When it finally came out, Wells produced a preview trailer for it. It was effectively a wholly original 9-minute film, shot and edited in similar style to the film itself. Apart from the very brief split-second camera shots, the entire film is a self-contained short containing original material starring Wells, Gary Graver, and Kodar. The trailer raises new questions about key people in the main film: Picasso, Kodar, Elmire, and others. These allegations are supposedly revealed in the main film. They include a wig, Kodar's fake name, her tiger, not shown in the film at all, and extraterrestrial sponsors of Wells' War of Worlds broadcast. The trailer has subsequently been restored in color, as included as an extra on some DVD versions of the film. Now, F for Fake faced widespread popular rejection. Critical reaction ranged from praise to confusion and hostility, with many finding the work to be self-indulgent or incoherent. I don't think so. Very coherent. It's Wells' masterpiece besides Citizen Kate. F for Fake has grown somewhat in stature over the years. The film embraces ideas from the self-conscious notation of the film process due to erotic employment of 1950s era B-movie footage. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 88% based on 50 reviews, with an average rating of 7.7. The website's critical consensus reads, F for Fake playfully poses intriguing questions while proving that even Orson Welles' minor works contain their share of masterful moments. Now, the film was shown at the Cannes Film Festival in 2021 in the Cannes Classics section. Now, author Robert Anton Wilson, a great fan of the film, argued in Cosmic Trigger 3, My Life After Death, that the film was largely an intentional effort at fakery by Welles in support of the film's themes. Most directly, Wilson reports that the BBC documentary Orson Welles' Stories of a Life in Film, Welles stated everything in the film was a trick. Secondly, many of the interviews in the film were with people who were themselves directly involved with forgery in one way or another, often making statements that would have been known by the filmmakers to be false, but which were allowed to pass without comment in the film. Similarly, Welles himself made numerous false statements about Kodar in the film. Finally, Wilson points out several scenes which, while presented in a way that implies they were filmed in real time, were upon further inspection clearly fabricated from unrelated pieces of footage in a way guaranteed to mislead the casual viewer. An example of this appears with a series of near-wordless shots of Irving and Doré seemingly in debate as to whether Elmire ever signed these forgeries. The shots of Irving and Elmire were in fact taken at different times. Yeah, but, isn't anything sweet. Now, Wells' autobiographical asides in the film reflect on the 38th radio adaptation of The War of the Worlds, which he alleges caused a nationwide panic with his fake news. In introducing this chapter of his life, Wells declares his uncertainty as his own authenticity, as he believes he was too as engaged in fraud. Now, home media releases, available on Hollywood Suite in Canada by streaming, Home Vision Cinema Janus VHS 95, Criterion in 95, single disc edition, Criterion 2005, 2-disc special edition including audio commentary by Kodar and Gary Graver, and the documentary Orson Welles One-Man Band. Now, the Region 4 DVD 2009 special features include audio commentary by Adrien Martin, Monash University, and the documentary Orson Welles One-Man Band. Now, in Eureka Video in 2010, Region 2, special features include audio commentary by cinematographer Gary Graver, Bill Crone, and Jonathan Rosenbaum on F for Fake. Now, other movies in the Welles Fakery group: Me and Orson Welles, a fictionalized retelling of the life of Orson Welles starring Zac Efron; Someone to Love, a 87 pseudo-documentary which shows a Valentine's Day party in an old movie theater that's about to be demolished, and Orson Welles is the one, supposedly. Filming Othello, a 78 documentary film directed by and starring Welles about the making of his 51 production Othello; and Hello Cinema, a 95 Iranian docu-film that shows various everyday people being auditioned and explain their reason for wanting to act in a film. Now, the Claudia Thiem, F for Fake, and the Growth and Complexity of Orson Welles documentary form came out in 97, and Peter Lang Publishing, 174 pages. So as it stands right now, ladies and gentlemen, I the beholder. I think it's a legitimate movie, but this film was a combination movie from West Germany, France, and Iran. 182,000 admissions in France. Don't know what type of the box office it is, but if everything is fake, are we fake? in the worlds of Lisa Turtle, are we art is art. I just love this movie because it's Orson Welles doing what does best to explain what it takes to be Orson Welles. So if you like what you're doing here or a movie podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.